Hey, fancy listeners. Francesca Hampton here, and I am honored that you took time to tune in once again. And I'm committed to sharing content that will make you glad you did. So, welcome to the Fancy Thoughts Podcast, a weekly podcast designed to give you perspective, insight, and encouragement to release the greatness inside of you. I want you to live fancy life, where you are fostering achievement, never compromising you, because someone is waiting for you. Welcome back, listeners. I hope you're ready for another episode of Fancy Thoughts. But before we get into this week's, let's remind ourselves what we talked about last time. In episode 19, we talked about overcoming rejection. We discussed the fact that every person has a right to refuse to accept something, but that doesn't change the value or the worth of the thing. And that also applies to us. Someone else's inability to see our worth, or if they make a decision to reject our worth or reject us or reject something that we're offering or providing, it doesn't change the fact that we are worthy, that our product or our service or our offering is still valuable and needed. We are still awesome. And someone else's inability to see that never changes it. This week's episode is very exciting. Number one, it's because we are at episode 20. Episode 20. So I want to first of all thank you for taking this journey with me. Whether you started at episode 1 or you started at episode 15, or if today is your very first episode, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day, whether you're listening on the day that this was posted or if you're listening to it sometime later. You took some time to listen to me, believing that there was something I had to say that was going to be beneficial and a blessing to you. And for that, I am grateful. I don't take that lightly. I believe truly that people's time and effort that they put into a thing matters. And you only put time and effort into things that are important to you. So thank you for giving me a few moments of your time. Now, the other exciting thing is this is episode 20. That means for 20 or so weeks, we have been talking. Now, of course, over the summertime, we acknowledge that these come a little bit less frequently. They come every other week instead of every week. But nonetheless, we're still here. And I'm really excited about this. Why? Because it's consistently showing that there is content to be said and people who want to hear it. It aligns with everything that Live Fancy Life truly is. Fostering achievement, never compromising you. Giving insight, direction, and perspective that will help people to continue to release greatness. And I'm so excited to be a part of your journey. Now, the other reason this episode is so exciting is because of the name or the topic. Now, by now, you've already seen it, but I'm excited to say it. Today's episode is Act Like It's So. I'm going to say it again. Act like it's so. What do I mean by that? It is time for us to respond in our everyday as though the things that we have been praying for, studying for, preparing for, doing things to propel us forward are already happening. It's time to act like it's so. Many times when we're doing something, especially something out of our comfort zone, or especially something that's, bigger than what we are used to doing, when you step out into an avenue or a venue or an area that you may not have been doing before, in that moment, there's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of, studying. There's a lot of paying attention to the market or paying attention to the audience or paying attention to different types of things to ensure that you're placing yourself in the right place at the right time with the right type of material that's going to reach the right audience, right? But in that preparation, there's some time before you see the fullness of what it is that you're doing. We can easily become distracted or discouraged in those times because, maybe you opened a store and the store's only been open for a month. But in your mind, because you knew that the store was in a perfect location, it had great products and that your prices were very competitive, you assumed that people would flock to it. You had been telling people about it for quite some time. People had been expressing interest. You had put out flyers. You did marketing, and advertising everywhere. And so you were expecting that there would be a big boom. Right. And it doesn't mean that the boom isn't coming. It just hasn't happened yet. And what we can easily do is, get into a mundane mentality and just say, okay, well, the store is open one day, it'll be big and, we'll just go from there. But today's episode is to tell you to act like it's so right now. Don't wait until the big boom comes. Act like it's so right now. Act like today your store, in this particular scenario, your store is booming. You have record number of consumers every single day. You have record number of patrons every single day that you are having to increase your marketing. You're having to increase your advertising. You're having to stock up on different types of products that maybe you weren't originally planning to. You say, well, why would I want to do that? That's not true. And that would be a waste of my time. Here's the reason. If you wait until it happens, it's too late. That's the first reason. Because think about it. If your business is booming the way that you want it to, and you have not prepared yourself to work with your suppliers with larger quantities, if you have not confirmed that your current suppliers could handle an increase when it happens, when the time comes that you need that increase, you're now searching for new suppliers who can give you what you need. If it is determined that you need to increase your advertising or your marketing reach, and you don't know how to do that, when the time comes, again, now you're floundering around trying to figure it out. But if you have a plan in place and say, okay, when we reach XYZ number, we're going to increase our marketing. And right now, maybe we're using a free website, but going forward, we might want to hire a designer who can actually continue to mold our site to the needs that we have. We can start doing things that are a little more dynamic, a little bit more, relative to what's happening in the store at this moment. But if you don't do that, if you don't plan that, if you don't even think about that until it happens, again, it's too late. So you have to act like it's so right now. I'll give you a better example specific to myself. There's a project that I have been working on for a very long time, and I'm excited that in just about a month or so, it will finally be live, and I will be able to share that with you and so many others. And I am confident that it will be a blessing to every person that takes part in it. But this project has been going on for a very long time. And so as it finally got to the point where it was becoming a reality, when it finally got to the point where it was becoming real, I froze. I got some feedback on some things that I needed to do in order to get it to that next level to release it. And I literally froze. I couldn't even read the feedback. I was paralyzed. And why was I paralyzed? I was paralyzed with the fear that someone would say that it wasn't good, that someone would say, or especially the person that I needed in order to help me to release it would say, you need to start over, or this isn't good enough. And where did I get that impression from? It was just fear. Because I had already been talking with this person about this project for a long period of time. So it's not like it was new to them and all of a sudden they were going to say what I was doing was crap. But in my mind, I had allowed fear and apprehension to come in. And I had to go remind myself of some of my own episodes. I had to remind myself about overcoming rejection, because even if one person didn't like it or didn't think it was good, it doesn't change the fact that it is good. I had to remember to continue to press, even through my fear, even through my apprehension, even though at one point everything froze up on the inside of me and I felt like I couldn't go on. I still had to press. I had to take a step. I had to get out of my own way. I had to remind myself that someone is waiting for me. Someone is waiting for this project to be live because it has been designed to impact the people that it was created for. And they will never be able to receive it if I don't release it. And so I'm saying this to you today, that this is so important, and I hope that you get it, that we have to act like it's so before it is, so that we can be prepared to walk into the fullness of the manifestation of it when it gets there. So going again to this project and how this applies. So once I got over that moment, and I'm very grateful for the partners that I work with that help to push me out of that place and to remind me why I do what I do and what is the end result that I'm expecting. And so as they began to tell me the steps that I needed to take, I began to embrace that this was coming to pass. And now I'm acting like it's so. How am I doing that? Number one, I'm telling you. In the past, until it had been fully released and available, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just been like, let it sit in the background. That way, in case I don't do it or it falls flat, no one will ever know. But that's not walking in the fullness of believing that what I have is important and valuable and needs to be released. That's not walking in the fullness that what I have is going to actually come to fruition. So I chose to act like it's so. And this is me taking a step in doing so. In other ways, I'm going to act like it's so. I'm going to make sure that I'm meeting the deadlines that have been given to me so that it can be so. I'm going to start thinking about what do I need to do to make it available to other people? What do I need to do to start advertising it? What do I need to do to start putting it out there? What are the different forums and mediums that I'm going to use to distribute this information about this product? What am I going to do so that when it's time, I'm already moving into it, not being like, oh, you mean it's ready today? Oh, shucks. Now I need to. No, I'm going to act like it's so because I'm believing that it's coming. I'm believing that it's stepping forward. And then I want to start thinking about the next release of the product, right? When is the next one coming? Or what is the next step in this product, right? And yet it might sound a little premature because the first one hasn't came out, but I'm believing that it's going to be such a great success that I need to have a plan for the next step. I'm going to act like it's so. What is a way that we can think about this, that we can relate to? So as a believer, I'm going to look at the word. And what does the word say? Well, in Romans 4:17, it says in part B, it says, and even God who quickeneth the dead and calls those things which be not as though they were. So I'm not going to wait until it is. I'm going to act like it is right now. Right? I'm going to call myself successful in that area. I'm going to call myself, well known in that area. I'm going to call myself productive and efficient in that area, even before it's so. Because if I wait till it happens, then I'm not in faith. I'm not believing that it will. I'm just waiting until it does. And that's where we want to stay away from. We want to stay away from, needing to see the proof before it happens. Because then we don't prepare ourselves properly. Here's the other reason why you need to act like it's so. Because you need to tell yourself that it's true. And you need to do so beforehand, because there are going to still be obstacles that are going to come along the way that are going to tell you that you can't do it, that it won't be successful, that it'll never happen, that no one will care, that no one will want it, all of these different negative things. Why? Because there is a negative side to any positive side. There is an enemy who wants to destroy those things that we have been given that should be released to impact and change lives. And so if he can't stop you from doing it, then he can at least stop it from getting out. And so we have to be aware of that. And then we have to counteract it, right? The Bible says that we should be aware, or that we should be wise to the devil's wiles, to his schemes, to his plans. And so, we need to know that there is always going to be something that is going to come against some type of success. There's always going to be a naysayer or a hater. There's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be something that's going to try to stop progress or stop success. You have to be so determined that you will press past it, because what you have to offer is worth that much. So you act like it's so. You need to believe that for yourself. There will be days when there will be no one around you to support you in words or in actions. There's going to be moments where there will be no one there to be your biggest cheerleader. The biggest cheerleader has to be you. You have to know why you do what you do, and you have to believe in it beyond a doubt. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what God has given you, told you, provided for you, put on the inside of you. You have to believe it so much that you are not willing to let anyone or anything stop you. And in doing so, you act like it's so. So whatever it is that you're working on, whatever it is that you've been thinking about, whatever it is that you've been planning, whatever it is that you believe you've been called to do, what is the next step that you would need to take if it was happening already? Let's say that you're making a new line of something, right? A new line of clothing, and you want this line of clothing to be available globally. Well, the first step obviously is figuring out what that line is going to be. Is it going to focus in on a certain area? Is it going to focus in on a certain gender? Is it going to focus in on a certain style? Is it going to, you need to go through all of the preparations, and you need to do your due diligence about all those types of things. How are you going to market it? Are you going to have a store? Is it going to be online? You need to go through all of that. But after you've done that and you begin to set those steps in place, you need to have your mindset of, okay, well, where do I go from here? In order for me to get to the where am I going to go from here, I have to be successful where I'm at right now. And so I'm believing that I'm going to be successful where I am right now. And that's why it's okay to think about what that next step is. Now, you don't want to get lost in the next step, that you miss out on everything that needs to be done in this season. But you always need to have that in the back of your mind so that you can plan for it. And that helps you to continuously be thinking about where you want to be. There should always be an outcome. There should always be an expected result of whatever it is that you do, especially when we're talking about life purpose, right? We talked about this once before. Nobody does what they do just for themselves. You don't make a new line of clothing because you're the only person who's ever going to wear it. You don't become a doctor, a lawyer, a beautician, a CEO so that you are the only proprietor of your information or your product or your services. You do it for someone else, whether you originally planned it as so or whether that just happens to be the way that it will be successful. And so with that in mind, you always want to know, what is my end result? What is it that I'm hoping to accomplish, right? If you're a beautician, you want to do, and I'm going to downplay this for just a moment, okay, I'm just going to do hair. Well, anybody can do hair. How are you going to set yourself apart? Is there something? Is it that you're going to have excellent service? Is it that you want to be more timely? Is it that you want to be, have styles that have never been seen before? It's unique and that people will walk out feeling better about themselves than they ever have before. Is it that you want to use this as a medium to be able to instill beauty in people or be able to reestablish confidence in people? What is your end result? Because if you're just doing something for doing something, it's easy to, again, be distracted or discouraged when things don't go a certain way because you don't know where you're trying to reach. You don't know what you're trying to accomplish. So you can't act like it's so because you don't know what it is. So you need to keep that in mind. And then along the way, like I said, you want to make sure that you're continuously acting like it's so. Wherever it is, the next step that you want to accomplish, you need to act like it's so right now so that you can prepare for it and that you can remind yourself of the worth, the value, and the importance of what it is that you have to offer. There's another scripture that comes to mind, and it is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 13. And it says, "We having the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed and therefore have I spoken. We also believe and therefore speak." Right? If you believe that you are going to be successful, then you speak as though you're successful. If you believe that your product is going to be booming, then you speak as though your product is booming. The moment that it comes out, it's already successful because you at least launched it. Oh, well, but I didn't make as many sales as I wanted to. That doesn't mean that you can't. It just means right now the trajectory is a little bit slower than you may have thought. But what do you need in order to get to that next step? Don't get satisfied with where you are right now. Always be looking for what your end result is and a plan that's going to get you there so that you're always taking baby steps so that when the time comes, you're not floundering around trying to figure it out because you've prepared yourself for this moment. Greatness is coming. Greatness is coming. And you have got to be in position to not only receive it, but to release it because someone is waiting for you. Thank you for joining us for the Fancy Thoughts podcast. I'm Francesca Hampton, and I look forward to you tuning in again next week. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish everything you were created for. So go and make this week a great one.